Hi, I'm Pastor Mike Adkins, the senior pastor of Grace, and I'm so excited about this historical day in the life of our church. Today, for the first time ever, Grace meets in 3 locations: Grace Orlando, Grace Conway, and Grace Edgewood. Each campus will have a live teacher and live worship each week, developing more leaders who can spread the gospel in Orlando. We'll learn from each other as we all grow in Christ and reach our city, and that is exciting.
How we found Grace is a fun story. I was actually on their website and I see the logo of Grace Fellowship. I was just like drawn to it in some sense. I was just like, oh, that logo is cooler than everyone else's. And so I clicked on it and basically just shot the link to Rick and was like, hey man, we need to check this out.
Pastor Rick and I have been friends for years, and I told him that if he ever decided to plant a church, I would be right there with him.
Being raised in Central Florida, I'd always had a heart for the area, and so we actually moved here last year to plant a church in Orlando. Yeah, we had planned to start a church in Orlando, and so we were reaching out to people in Orlando. I think I emailed about 100 pastors, and 4 of them replied, and one of them was Pastor Mike.
They called me up from Georgia, and Rick goes, hey, we're planning on starting a church right behind yours. And I was like, cool, that's great. And we've always had the kind of an open-heartedness towards church planters, because we love church planters and we think there needs to be multiple churches, but I just didn't want them in my backyard. So I said, hey, why don't you come on down? I can tell you all about College Park, which is where we were at the time. And I can tell you all about College Park, and you know, whatever you need, we can help you start the church. And I just liked them.
We recognized that Orlando is a city made up of neighborhoods, and so to reach Orlando meant you had to reach neighborhoods. And so Mike and I had talked, a lot about like, hey, how can we plant a church that then puts other churches and other neighborhoods of Orlando?
The Orlando campus was going fine, it was going great, everything seemed to be working, but we just knew that there was something else that we were supposed to do, and we weren't exactly sure what that was until we started exploring the idea of campuses.
And then I think as we started speaking, and kind of like, hey, this is what we're thinking. And then I think that there was like a melding of the visions in some sense.
I sat him down and I was like, why are we doing ministry separate from one another? We actually work really well as a team. So why don't you guys come on staff at Grace?
I went home and asked Christy, I'm like, hey, Pastor Mike asked me to pray about this. And she's like, what is there to pray about? Like, we've been praying for 3 months that God would show us like what was our next step. And so he just did. So like, let's take the step.
And I basically had the same response as Christy. Of like, yeah, I'll go pray about it if you need me to. But I feel like we've been praying, and this just feels like the right thing. I mean, it was so natural. Our relationships and how quickly we melded with just the culture and the vision that Grace had to reach the city.
Good morning, Grace. You can have a seat if you'd like. I want to welcome you to Grace Conway. My name is Rick Garrett. I am the campus pastor here, and I am so excited that you have chosen to be with us this morning. This has been a dream and a prayer of mine and my wife, Christy, for about 6 years now. God has been stirring in our hearts to see a new church started. And so we are thankful that you are a part of that dream today. One of the things that we do at Grace every week, one of our traditions, is that we give a round of applause to welcome our first-time guests. So what I want you to do is just join me in welcoming each other.
And it was great. They actually grew the campus well. I mean, I think within the first year they had 100. The second year they had about 150, 175, and it was great. It was a great campus. But we eventually closed down Conway because I saw the need that was bigger than having the Conway campus to have Pastor Rick Garrett be the executive pastor of the church.
What God is doing at Grace, He's doing at all of our campuses. So we are excited for Grace Orlando, we're excited for Grace Edgewood, and excited for Grace Oviedo, which will be coming soon. So you guys be praying for what God is doing through Grace. Thank you.
So as I transitioned into the executive pastor role, we opened campuses, we closed some campuses, and I think every single time we learned something new about who we are as a church and how we could launch and resource and help campuses further the mission in the city.
We could have one church that has the strength of a large church, but also the intimacy of other and smaller campuses.
We're out there literally expanding the reach and the influence of Grace into these individualized communities in a way that you can't do impersonally. You know, you need campus pastors who will get to know their campuses and their communities and get to know people there. And that's one of the strengths of the model of the things that we do, is that we get to tailor fit ministries to communities.
I get to teach, lead, and shepherd my campus, but yet I've got this umbrella, this beautiful umbrella of care and support and help and leadership and vision. And that's an incredible thing to be a part of.
You guys are awesome. And we're abundantly grateful to be here.
It's a Grace Church. You're gonna get the same dynamic worship. You're gonna get the same preaching. You're gonna get the same programs and all of the things that we love about our culture. The house rules are just as true at our campus as they are at every campus.
The people are bought in, they care about the vision, and they care about making Jesus known.
God says, I want you to come to me when you don't have the answers. I want you to come to me when it's all broken, because I want to help you.
It's a safe place for people to come be exactly who they are. It's a place where they can heal and where they can find hope.
Orlando Police Department.
Hi, I'm calling because there was a shootout in Pulse, the nightclub.
We ask the questions of why did God allow something like this to happen? And the reality is, on this side of heaven, I don't think we're going to have full answers for that. But God can take that which is evil and unacceptable and ultimately work it and weave it into his plan, that many can be changed and many can come to know him. And that's been my prayer, that Jesus Christ is the hope the city needs.
It's so hideous and so terrible that the only response that you could possibly have is compassion. And it doesn't matter if we agree with everything in a person's life. When someone's hurt, the strong protect the weak. And that's what Grace immediately went into business doing.
I was proud of our church. I was proud of the way that we responded to people who are hurting and to people who are in need. I think after Pulse, we became even more of an Orlando-centric church. It really solidified our vision to be about our city and to be about our home and its people, about reaching them and about serving them in a way that nothing else had before.
As Grace began to find its identity, the big picture became bigger than just the weekend services. God just really deeply put a love for Orlando in our hearts. And reaching Orlando, in a way, it's also reaching the nations. Like it is a place where so many people come. It's the most visited city in the world. It's the hub of a lot of things. And so I think for us, it just gave us a vision of what Orlando means to other places even. And that if we could reach this city with the gospel, then it would really have an ongoing and everlasting impact.
Central Florida is my home. I love it with all my heart. I always kind of joke around that if I wasn't a pastor, I'd probably just be mayor of Orlando or something like that. Because I just love the city beautiful, and I love the people that are in it. I love the diversity that's in it. And honestly, this is the place where I wanted to and am investing my entire life. Grace is going to be focused on reaching Central Florida for Jesus.
And I drove by and I'm like, this is our place. This is our home. I can see it.
Our whole purpose is to help people take the next step toward Christ. And sometimes that's a huge step.